You knew this was going to happen when you ordered it. Hi, my name is Charles Ray Dawson. I am the Associate Broker and Residential Sales Manager of ProStar Realty. This is the Unnamed Real Estate Podcast, episode 143. And I hate being right. Or I hate it when I say something is going to happen and then it comes to pass and it's like one of those, this is one of those times I wanted to be wrong, all right? But last week, you guys might remember, paid attention to my ranting and ravings and this and that and the other thing. I was talking about how I was projecting we were going to be hitting a buyer's market in certain districts, and we sure as hell have. Got some numbers we're going to go over here really quick. Now, I also saw a really, really great news article with one of those really great headlines that has nothing to do with Arizona, but can distract people in thinking they're going to, that things are the way they aren't. So I want to call that out too, and hit the national news. The court case is still courting. It is, without getting too far into the weeds, prosecution is still doing prosecution things. The plaintiffs are still doing the plaintiff things. They're still plainting. I think the only big news that came out is that apparently the plaintiffs snuck in a video without putting it on their evidence list. And for you guys who've never been in court before, and I just got this mostly from just listening to legal podcasts and watching television shows, when you're presenting your evidence, you are supposed to give an entire list of the evidence that you're presenting to the defense so the defense can work on rebuttals and make sure that they're not blindsided. And apparently in this particular case, the blind side was a podcast, ironically enough, from one of the CEOs of one of the companies where he is on this podcast talking. I think the big thing is that he used the analogy of basically saying, I am not a prostitute and I'm not sitting down off the Lincoln Tunnel at 3 o'clock in the morning dropping my price. And paraphrase, you could find that out there, but it's one of those things that can be shocking to the jury, and it's one of those things that should have been, hey, we're going to play this clip from this podcast in the middle of our presentation here, and the defense should have had the ability to come back with it, or at least have their copy of the video, so they can say, hey, let's talk about what he said 30 seconds before that. Let's put some context around it. So there's some commentary saying that the defense attorney should have immediately objected to the introduction of that evidence into the court. None of them did. They allowed it to play out, and now they're moving for a mistrial based on that, which was shot down by the judge. So mistrial bar is actually relatively high, but for you guys who take some of my podcast advice and listen to a show called Advisory Opinions, they covered this about 2 or 3 weeks ago, how high the bar is for a mistrial. And if you are going to try to get a mistrial, sometimes you ask for a mistrial in the middle of your court case just so later on, all right, after the court rules the way the court rules, if you want to, appeal it, you can use what you called out earlier, asking for a mistrial, as an example of why you should get when your appeal. Hope that made sense to you guys. It sort of kind of makes sense to me, but hey, once again, I'm not an attorney. I'm just a real estate agent. And I'm also not a reporter, okay, because I don't write stupid headlines. But, reoccurring theme, I've told you guys a million times, all right? Just because you hear something on national news does not mean it applies to Arizona. Got a really good example of this from actually one of my trusted sources. This is Inman. This is a news source for real estate professionals. So it's definitely a couple layers higher than MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, those guys and stuff. And even better than like the business journals, right? Because these guys are specifically burrowed down, but wanted to, did a little bit of my poor Microsoft Paint to get this thing so you guys can see this headline here. All right. And it's pending home sales surge in a September surprise. Gets a lot of people really excited. All right. The last line of this article, though, was, the West, meanwhile, saw pending sales decline 1.8% from the previous month and 12.9% from the previous year. This entire article does not apply to us. All right. And hey, Midwest was up 4% or something, and Northeast was up 1.8. And, when it all balances out, you got this overall national, I wouldn't call 1.1 a surge, but hey, your adverbs may vary in these things. But, we saw national go up a bit. West is still slinking down. And we're just going to go straight into the numbers, because if you guys actually saw the title card on this video before you clicked on it, all right, we had the big BM. All right, let's look at our local numbers and everything. Starting with the regulars. Actives this week are 14,858. That's up 491 from last week. New listings are at 1,936, down 119. Contracts are at 1,719, down 35. Our closings were at 1,176, and coming soon in MLS near you is 598 new listings. Cromford numbers, all right? For the entire area, our Cromford score is 126.4, right? Still dropping. Remember, that is a number that is generated between supply at 57.1, rising, and demand 72.2, declining. Although that 72.2 is not that much of a decline, right? But you guys might remember a week ago when I said the Cromford crew went on vacation and we lost a week's worth of numbers. All right, that I expected to see houses and neighborhoods in small cities go into a balanced market and even a seller's market, or a buyer's market, and here we be. All right, our 4 bargain neighborhoods where the buyers have the big stick. All right, Maricopa, Queen Creek, Goodyear, and Buckeye. Buckeye is all the way down to an 83.1. All right, remember 90 is the cutoff on this. That puts Maricopa at 88.0 right into the buyer's market, but Buckeye is definitely into a buyer's market. All right, our only balanced market we have out there is Surprise at 107.3, which is and they have dropped a -8. They were at 116.8 this time last month, right? But continuing that slide. Remember, Maricopa was in a balanced market last month. Queen Creek was in a balanced market last month. Goodyear, balanced market. Buckeye, balanced market. All right, but we got red across the board. Our biggest loser this week is Cave Creek's down 27% from this time last month. So, still don't know what else going on in Cave Creek. Cave Creek and Tempe, they're just weird. And Chandler's still leaving the pack at 182.9, so don't be running around there thinking you got big stick energy if you're in Chandler, Glendale, Fountain Hills, and Gilbert if you are a buyer. Now, because that is still a seller's market, their agents should be informing their sellers, hey, we're still a seller's market up here. Although, if you were a seller looking at some of these things, I would not get too aggressive with your pricing at this point, all right, in any of these markets, all right? List it at where comp's at. Go for the quick sale. All right. Chandler's down 21% month over month. Right. They continue to slide. You do not want to be sitting on the market come January 1st unless you're just putting it on the market come January 1st. Because remember, winter is coming. Winter is almost here. All right. November and December, you're going to see everything just drops off the face of the earth. We just sort of go into hibernation. All right. When those buyers come out the first week of January, the second week of January, and they start looking around, they're going to be looking at your house sitting there with 60 days on the market and go right past you. All right, so a little strategy going on there. All right, let's see. Other number I wanted to show you is this one came out from the Cromford Report this week. Look at that delta. Look at that change, right? Starting about halfway through September, and this is our months of supply. Month of supply is a term that we use to say if there was not a single house listed on the market from here on out, and the houses came off the market at the same rate, all right? Think of that bathtub. no houses come on. We turn the faucet completely off, right? But houses keep coming out of that bathtub at the exact same rate as before. The drain's still open. How long is it going to take until the tub is completely empty? All right. All right. Right now we're looking at we're almost to 3 months days of supply, right? But 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, right, we're at 2. Right. This is a big jump. I mean, if you look through this map, you do not see a jump this fast going all the way back for the last 4 years. You see general rises, right? You see general falls. You see this nice little year right here, 2021, where it sat low and stayed low, right? And I can tell you, you can look right on this chart, right about here. That's when the interest rates started going crazy, right? But we haven't seen a delta like that in quite some time. Yellow light. Right? Yellow light. Not flashing red. That's a yellow light. And so what I did is I decided to go back. Hey, let's look at all the numbers I've been storing and see if we can back this out. And remember, this month of supply is number of active listings, monthly sales rate. Those are the two big numbers we look at. So contracts, active listings. Right? Other thing I wanted to point out is that balanced market overall, right? Historically, and this is a number that's used nationwide by everybody involved, 3.5 to 4.5%, or 3.5 months to 4.5 months is considered a balanced market. It's when you get over that 4.5, then you start saying, hey, okay, now we're really going into a buyer's market here. All right, so we still got a long way to go, but we're going to cross over that 3.5 at this rate. If we continue on at this rate, probably about 2 weeks. All right, coming in the last week of October, 2 weeks from now will be the end of the first week of November, second week of November. That almost sounds like something I might have said about a week ago. All right, it's good to see the Cromford Report supporting my scientific wild ass guesses I do over here. So let's take a look at this chart that I wanted to show you. This is based on the numbers that I've been keeping. Right. This is interesting. New listings, right? From the beginning of this year, first time I ran it, January the 4th, right? Running all the way across. Now, you notice we come out of 1,000 because nobody lists their house that very first week of January. Nobody lists their house over Christmas, right? And then there's our little surge. And then we peaked out, right about here, about 2,100. That's your spring fling. And then it's just been bouncing around. And we've never dropped down under 1,500, but we have not until last week or so hit over 2,000. So we got a spread here of about 500 houses. Right. I would say, we've been talking about people who are just like, you can get me out of my 3.5% interest rate when you pull it out of my cold dead hands. This is what we've been seeing across what people are not selling their house because they can't afford to buy a new house. They have a house, right? But these new interest rates of 7 and 8%, and everybody keeps saying 8 right now, although I'm getting quotes for in the high 7s. And I think that just might be before you start adding on all the points and everything. But you can pretty much say at this point, it's like, why do I get rid of my 3 or 4 to get an 8? Right? Which will almost be effectively doubling my mortgage payment if I do not have to. So what we're seeing right here, these numbers, I almost call this like our floor. Right? I'm a little leery of using that term, right? But let's just say, let's average this whole thing out and call it 1,250. Every month, 1,250 houses wind up on the market because they have to be sold. Buyers are, sellers are moving, dying, whatever the thing is. This is our have to. This is our floor. Right? Let's see if this plays out through the next year. So these are our new listings, right? Those new listings add to this. Right? Here, these are our contracts, and this is where we can see why we suddenly got that spike. Because if you notice, nobody's writing offers at the beginning of the year, right? Offer surge. Here's that April, May. These are the high months right there. And then we just see them slowly start trickling down. You notice, here's a 2,000 mark, here's a 5,000 mark. We're almost matching, but it's just not enough, right, to keep us balanced, right? That slow incremental creep that we've been watching with supply, right? 300 this week, 400 next week, 200 this week, 100 last week. That slow incremental supply. So what's made this delta all of a sudden, right? This is your slow creep up, right? Here's your slow creep up, and then what's that? Right. I'm thinking it's a direct result of that drop combined with, or I think it's this drop combined with this bit of high. We crested over this little magic point right here, right, where we're consistently over, and houses going back on market, which I do not track, and I do not have it. Well, I track it, but I don't have a chart for it, right? And we had a run of about three weeks there where our back on markets were over 500, right? Now, normally when we see a contract and going over to active on the screen, that's going to be this green arrow right here. A contract goes back on market, and I used to chart that, but, you know, to simplicity's sake, I got over it. But I think it's those houses that are coming back on market. For some reason, the buyer has decided they don't want to buy that house, and they're using one of their excuses in the contract to get out of it. Or maybe if they didn't lock their loan rate in, and all of a sudden at 8, they can't afford to buy that house, so they're not getting the loan, which means the house has to go back on the market. I think that kicked that whole thing off. So what does this mean to you guys all? All right. Trying to project this out, okay? We know we're going into the last 2 months. Okay, we know the last 2 months inventory or new houses come down. Right? This might be our last little surge of everybody trying to get their house on the market, you know, in October, hoping to close by the end of the year. All right, last little surge. If we see new listings continue this little drop down, remember we balanced, popped up a little bit. Oh, I got to get rid of it by the end of the year. It's too late to get to it by the end of the year. And then you're going to see down here coming back in December. If we have that happen, if we have these new listings come out, all right, well, people are still buying at the rate that they're trying to buy, we might see this plateau. Just like we do see a plateau seasonally here, and that little plateau seasonally here. Now, the problem is these 2 months are really, really super bad to try to be tracking. Or these 2 years, I mean, because 2020, 2021, crazy time. I'd almost have to go back in time and show you stuff from like 5-6 years ago. I'd love to be able to show you 2014. That was like our last balanced normal market we've seen since. So, long story short, advice to you: this is what you do. You do what's right for you based on your situation. All right. Don't let any of the stuff that you're hearing rush you one direction or the other. If you are in a good payment and in a house that's doing what you need it to do, stay in the house. All right? If the house is no longer doing what you need it to do because you have an extra kid, or you have you've lost a roommate, or you're suddenly working from home, or you're suddenly not working from home, and you realize I could get away with a lot less, give me a call. We'll figure out your situation on this. And if you're looking to buy, and if you are in a position where you contact a lender, and the lender says you qualify for an amount, and then you contact me, and we find houses out there in the area, right, at the price point that you can comfortably afford and you're okay with, like I said, appreciation is an escalator, and it starts the day you get on. Right? This numbers that we're seeing here, that's not a crash. All right, this is a run-up. This is a run-up going to a balanced market and into a seller's or a buyer's market. Even in a buyer's market, you don't see houses go down. Right? In a buyer's market and in a balanced market, you generally see appreciation at inflation or slightly above. Right? Only when people start panic selling. Nobody's panicking. If people were panicking, we would be seeing this number right here go through the roof. All right. Everybody suddenly trying to get out of their house makes new listings skyrocket. People are standing pat. We're frozen up. This might be one of those things where it's really good to be frozen up while we work through this issue with the rates. All right. So that's all I got. Short day today. Not a lot of national news. No real topics to discuss. Here's our numbers. Here's where we're at. I got a concert to go tonight, so I'm going to edit this, upload this, and go rock out with The Who. You guys have a great weekend. Watch the children and pets around the water. Do not drive into anything flooded. Work your circles. I keep forgetting to work your circles. All right, and have a great weekend.